Don't you just hate it whenever you do something, felt like you did it well or explained something well, and then all of a sudden something changes, and then all of a sudden everything that you just did or said no longer exists or means anything? Yeah, that was me yesterday. After I recorded yesterday's episode talking about the 2023 West Virginia football transfer class, the hits, the misses, the guys that still were trying to figure out whether or not they're going to be contributors or not. And among those was Tomiwa Durojaiye, who, as you now know, is in the portal again for the second time in his collegiate career. Spent the first year at Kentucky. He redshirted and made his way over to Morgantown, developed into a quality rotational defensive lineman, was probably going to be in line to either start or have a very significant role in 24. And for whatever reason, is now in the portal. Had I known or had an inclination that this was a possibility, I wouldn't have mentioned Durjai's name, or I wouldn't have mentioned it in the way that I did. And that was, I thought he was going to be a big impact player in 24 for the Mountaineers. This came out of absolutely nowhere. I can tell you right now that this was out of left field. This was one that many were not expecting. And I don't know exactly the reasoning behind it outside of my guess and my assumptions. And that would be, I mean, I hate to bring it to this, but money, right? That's what all these kids are chasing nowadays. They're chasing the opportunity that carries the most, bag or baggage or whatever that gives them the most opportunity to make as much money as possible. And I 100% understand it. I too was a college athlete. I understand the situation that these kids are in. They go to school, they're in practice, they're in meetings all day. There's no time really to make money. And what they do, they put their body on the line, particularly in football. But man, there's got to be some sense of patience. There's got to be some small sense of, I don't know, common sense. And I feel like a lot of these kids just are not using it and don't have that patience. And I'm just going to be honest with you. This was a bad move for Durjai. And I'm not saying that he won't rebound and find a good place for him and develops into an NFL caliber player. But taking the news for what it is, I mean, it doesn't make any sense. I mean, he just solidified himself along this defense, along this defensive line. You're not going to go in the portal and demand a crap ton of money. And I'm not saying that that is exactly the reason because I truly do not know. I'm just saying if that is the reason for bigger NIL opportunities, good luck because the market right now is not very good. A lot of these schools are starting to back off on how much money that they're going to be putting, or not the schools, but the collectives, if you will, are starting to be very cautious with their money, including West Virginia. They're not going to overpay for people. They're not going to pay guys that want absurd amount of money. And again, I'm making this very clear. I don't know if this is the reason behind it. It's an assumption. And I'm not trying to put that narrative out there that this is why Tomiwa is leaving. I'm not doing that at all. What I'm saying, though, is if he stays at West Virginia, he's going to get his money that he wants or the NIL opportunities that he would want. He's going to develop into an NFL caliber player. He's already on that path. But the second you derail and you take a different turn and you all of a sudden have to learn a third defense in as many years and you have to learn a new scheme, new verbiage, new teammates, new atmosphere. You're having to constantly battle uphill. That's a very tough thing that you're putting yourself through. When you go through not just one, not two, but three different position battles and defenses and learning of schemes, I mean, that is very, very tough. And what I found interesting the other day was a tweet by Max Olson of The Athletic that 72% of Power 5 and G5, or now Power 4 and G5 transfers see fewer snaps at their next school. 72%. That's overwhelming. That is an absurd number. Catch this. 37% of those same transfers don't even start a game that next season. 37%. That's going out on a limb. That's a huge risk if you go in the portal. And not every case is the same. Not every kid that enters the portal is going to see a reduction in snaps or is going to fail to get a start. And in some cases, you're going to see guys that don't even get a home. I don't think any of those three are going to be the case for Durojaiye. He's a very talented kid. He's got a lot of upside, and he's got a bright future ahead of him. I think he's going to find himself playing as much or more than he did this year. He's going to start. I don't see that being a situation at all. What I'm saying, though, is, and maybe this isn't, maybe I should back this up and say this isn't necessarily for Tomiwa, but the kids that transfer 2 and 3 and 4 times, you're making this more difficult than it needs to be. You're going to a college to put stuff on tape for the 32 teams at the NFL level. You're not putting stuff on tape for the other 120 some schools at the collegiate level. I mean, you can if you want, but the ultimate focus, the ultimate goal should be the NFL. And if there's an opportunity where you can go to a different school and make more money, I get it. It's life-changing money for a lot of these kids. And a lot of people would be crazy to pass up some of the money that's been floated around out there. But the long-term goal is to get to the NFL. That money that you get in the NIL space is only going to last for so long. It's going to eventually run out. That money in the NFL, if you work your way into becoming a quality player at this level, and you can develop yourself to be a coachable person, you have great work ethic, and you improve every single year you're in college, you're going to play a long time in the NFL. And guess what? That money lasts a hell of a lot longer than the one that you're about to get in the NIL space. When you bounce around from place to place, from defense to defense or scheme to scheme, you're putting yourself in an extremely difficult position because you're never set going into that year. Again, this is for Durojaiye. This is his third defense he's going to have to learn in as many years. It's the third time that he's going to have to prove himself to a defensive coordinator, to a position coach, to a head coach that, hey, I deserve this role. I deserve this amount of playing time. I deserve this type of playing status. He already knew what that was going to be when he came back, if he came back to Morgantown in 2024. So again, I'll take a step back, not necessarily push this as this is Durojaiye making a bad decision, but this is more so, I guess, a warning, if you will, to those that are transferring 2, 3, and 4 times. Some situations, it's okay to do that if it makes sense. And this may be a case where it makes sense for Durojaiye. We'll find out. But more often than not, as those numbers I just rattled off to you, the grass isn't greener on the other side. I'll go over those numbers again. 72% of Power 4 and G5 transfers see a reduction in snaps their following season at their new school. 37% fail to start a single game. That is an absurd amount of players taking a backseat to what they had, but they didn't know that what they had was good for them. And I get it's not all about playing time. I understand there's culture, there's coaching changes, there's all sorts of things that go into this. But if you were to read me those stats, and I was a player in college, whatever sport, and I was thinking about transferring, and I looked at those numbers, I'm second guessing it. Because is it worth me taking a whole year to gain the trust and gain the familiarity with the new coaching staff and scheme to build myself back up to where I was this year, instead of staying where I'm at and increasing my production, increasing my role? You're setting yourself back in most cases, unless you're a proven commodity at a quarterback or a big time receiver, a running back or defensive back, and you have been an all conference player, started a bunch of games, and you're going to get a ton of money opportunities. That's different. What I'm talking about is these young cats that are rotational players on the fringe of becoming a starter, and they think that moving is the best thing for them. Be careful with these decisions. They're not always what's in best interest for you. I hope it works out for Tony. I really do. He's a good kid, very talented player. And in my opinion, I think he will, as long as he ends up in the right situation, in the right place, the right defense, I think he will play his way into the NFL one way or another, whether it's a draft or he just finds his way onto a practice squad as a UDFA. One way or another, the kid's got the talent. Hope it works out for him. But at some point, we've got to see these transfer numbers cut down. I don't care if you transfer once, whatever. I get it. You make a decision out of high school and you realize you had a mistake. But the second, third, and fourth time transfers, man, these numbers have got to come down. Unfortunately, it probably won't anytime soon, thanks to the TRO against the NCAA enforcing their transfer rules. It worked out for West Virginia basketball with Raekwon Battle. Now it's coming to backfire on them on the football side of things. So it's going to be interesting. Transfer portal is a wild thing. It's a dangerous tool, I guess we want to call it, for these kids. But maybe one day, 10, 12 years from now, there'll be enough data out there that shows the pros and cons of leaving the situation you're in. And maybe we'll have some better educated decisions. And again, I'm not trying to slam Tomi's decision. I'm not trying to criticize his decision at all. What I'm saying is I hope the best for the kid. Hope it works out. But what he would have done here in West Virginia in 2024 would have really put him, I think, on the map the following year to be on the NFL radar at a much sooner pace than he's going to probably be at another school. But we'll see. We'll see. Hope it works out for him. That'll do it for me here today. I'm Schuyler Callihan here on Between the Ears. Make sure you hit that subscribe button at Mountaineers Now and give us a follow on X at the same handle. We'll be back tomorrow with another episode.